Ha ka ha ka. With such sounds, a guy with long black hair in a hospital gown wakes up, lying in a hospital bed under a drip. The sun creeps through the window with cracks into the room, as if someone broke it or it was cracked, because the fragments were lying on the patient's blanket. Some pieces of paper, both crumpled and not, lay on the floor. The patient twitched his limbs, wheezing from the heaviness. He sat down on the bed and, looking around, began to gradually get up from it. It didn't turn out to be a huge success for him. He flopped onto the floor and vomited. Having caught his breath again, covered in sweat and vomit, he grabbed the handrail next to his bed. He looked very hard, but he tore the catheter out of his hand and staggered somewhere. He walked out of his room into the hospital corridor. This corridor looked terrible. All the ceilings are collapsed, wires are hanging down, the whitewash on the walls is cracked, glass is broken. Wheelchairs are lying on the floor and everything else. The character tried to call the elevator. Does not work. No electricity. Having made such conclusions, he went down the slightly destroyed stairs, returning to his room and began to examine what was in the bags. Having found the phone, I poked it a little and tried to turn it on, but it didn't work. He decided to look out the broken window. The view opened onto a destroyed city, cars and accidents, a broken hospital fence, and the hospital itself was broken. Sighing with a heavy look, he heard some sounds, as if someone was carrying something, the sound of wheels or a cart. Having looked, he saw an elderly woman hunched over in a red vest and cap, pushing a cart containing packages and with two dogs walking next to her. They locked eyes and the grandmother ran away. Hey, sorry, ugh, my vote. The guy's voice was weak. He turned around and ran into the hospital corridor. Falling exhausted, he thought how long he had been starving. Having apparently found a pantry, in the refrigerator of which there was at least some kind of food with slurping and crunching, he began to quickly gobble up the food. But during the period of eating the food he vomited. Having caught his breath again, he heard some rustling sounds. Hey, is there anyone here? He heard nothing in response and continued his poor meal further with thoughts about what happened here. War, and how are his mother and father now? He lay here for a month or two. His whole head was in a fog. Memories. A group of guys. Kang Yeong, you're not a bad buddy. You stayed on your feet for so long. Ha idiot, what do you like being a punching bag? I should have just given up. If I had known things would turn out this way I would have been more careful. A group of guys beat up Kang Yeong while filming and mocking him. Well, not so cocky anymore. I heard that you used to train a lot. Now crawl into your kennel, idiot. I fought them off, but there were more and more of them. All the events took place at school. The guy with red hair apparently suffered injuries from Kang Yeong, because of which he demanded the so-called compensation. Although at that moment Kang Yeong was simply trying to dodge the guy with red hair, and he just tripped and tore his face. To this, the guy from the schoolboy gang threatened Kang Yeong and told him to give him $1,000,000 every month. This is the so-called compensation. In response, Kang Yeong said that he himself was to blame. At that moment, Kang Yeong thought to himself that he just needed to give up, because they would take them out only in numbers. But he didn't do this because his conscience did not allow him to do this. You can't do anything to me alone. The guy who was just standing and watching all this decided to get into a fight. Everyone was hitting Kang Yeong and this guy could have helped. But no, he responded with his foot in his stomach. Others also hit him with heavy blows until he flew off the roof of the house where it all happened. And so, it was a dream consisting of Kang Yeong's memories. He woke up sweating and stood up abruptly. I don't remember anything else, he said. Time to go. I won't learn anything if I stay here. He gathered his things and got dressed, looking at his hair in silence. My hair grew so long. How long was I out? 6 months or a year? First, you need to find people, he said, putting on his cap. And then a family. Going outside. Are the police or the district administration still here? Or could they even be? Walking down the street, he notices that all the houses, all the machines and everything else are broken, destroyed. There is not a single living place on the streets. He walked further along one of the blocks where there were cars that had once been involved in an accident. All the houses stick to God's word because they are broken in some areas. The guy notices a machine that should have been with food, but apparently the people who were alive before took everything. Then he hears a roar from around the corner. These are the same dogs that walked with his grandmother. They were about to attack the guy, but then the same grandmother comes and calms down her dogs. Hush, everything is fine, she said. She looked at the guy with a slightly sad look. Excuse me, can I talk to you a little? I have a problem. Before he could say, stuttering, his grandmother gave him some kind of yellow bag and said, be careful and hide quickly. She asked him. The grandmother left, and the guy, opening the package, saw the canned food and, in surprise, began to eat it with a slurp and a groan. He heard the sounds of a car beeping. Turning around, Kang Yeon saw a guy waving at him. "Hey, there." Kang Yeon, unfortunately a kind soul, waved back. "Oh, hello. Can you talk to me? What's going on here?" Before he had time to ask everything, the guy who came to him from behind took out a bat, hitting Kang Yeon so hard that he simply fell to the ground. His friend said that the blow was good, to which the little man said that he didn't think there were such idiots left. The grandmother sat with her dogs and looked from behind some door at what was happening on the street. At the same time, in the hospital, along the corridor of which there is no one and nothing, just emptiness, it is in Kang Yeong's room that there is some kind of monster in the form of a cyborg making sounds. VZH, VZH, VZH. School. I have to go back. I have to find my notes. I have to. I used to be too self-confident. I was so good at studying and playing sports. And where did this self-confidence lead me? The scene with those terrible guys who bullied Kang Yeong is shown. School. I don't want to go back. Has the world really collapsed? Perhaps it will be even better this way. Until then, I don't have to go back yet. My face is so warm. Is there blood? I'm dying. He woke up while the dog was licking him. Mylok, are you awake yet? Grandmother asked him. Oh, thank God, what terrible people. No better than robbers. Kang Yeon asked what happened, clutching his head that was wearing a bandage. Headache. Now wait, I'll give you some medicine. The grandmother began to ask Kang Yeong what kind of injury he had before, because he was in the hospital. They started talking about whether there was a war or not. But grandmother herself was honestly not sure about the war. The world simply plunged into chaos. Kang Yeong turned his head to look at the dogs, to which his grandmother began to calm him down, saying that everything is fine. They are at least a little angry, but they just need time to trust someone. They will go through thick and thin with you if you become their friend. This one doesn't seem all that evil, Kang Yeon said about the dog. At the first meeting, he almost rushed at you, and now he's trying to hug you. Then the dog pounced on Kang Yeon, making mating movements in his direction. No, you cannot do it this way, grandmother said. Are you absolutely sure that you will find that shelter? Yes, grandmother and Kang Yeong talked. The grandmother gave food to Kang Yeong with her. He began to persuade her to go with him to the shelter. But the grandmother also had an old man who was against going to the shelter, and the grandmother wanted to stay close to him in his old age. It would be more correct. He'll be back soon, very angry if he finds out that I helped you. Grandma said, I will definitely come back and repay you. Kang Yeon said, you have already returned everything. People, like the shift, are growing to bear fruit. After waving at Kang Yeong, he left, nodding his head to her. He walked down the street, saw a secluded place, and turning around, making sure that no one was there, began to eat. Walking further down the street, he finally reached the shelter. I started asking strangers what was where and how to get there. He apparently came to the dispatcher. Hello, I was told to come to you. You're new, right? Are you from this area? Where have you been hiding all this time? Name, age, address, ID. ID, name Kang Yeon, 19 years old. What month is it now? 13th of April. The dispatcher girl answered. She began to clarify the subtleties, but Kang Yeong realized that he was no longer 19, but 20. He asked her if he had the opportunity to call or use the internet, to which the girl replied that calls are only for emergencies and it's difficult to explain. The connection works from time to time, but the electric generator can barely cope. She showed him where to go so that he could come to her later. He began to look at people. Somewhere they were feeding babies, somewhere people were just lying and reading, and when night fell everyone fell asleep. When morning came, the dispatcher began to wake everyone up through the loudspeaker. 1, 2, 3, let's cheer up. If you want to quickly return to your previous life, then your health comes first. Sharing gymnastics. After spending a couple of days in the shelter, it began to seem that everything was slowly getting better. Help pays in kind and that's not bad. Kang Yeong was given something to eat, and he thanked him for it. From what I know now, society itself has not yet completely collapsed. We can say that it is slowly starting to return to normal. It's quite calm here, unlike the destroyed buildings, and the people seem quite focused on the future. At this time, the main character was looking at different people. Some were playing cards, others were sitting with their families, and doctors were treating them. These are all terrorists. Isn't that how Master Song is? I'm telling you, this was America. If it weren't for her, the situation would not have reached the boiling point. From the side, Kang Yeong noticed a group of men talking. It's not them. I'll try to explain it as simply as possible. An uncle who looked like a scientist, Master Dream, began to explain. Look, this is land. He showed the candy. So it's just candy. Imagine that the Earth, our little planet, was just spinning around the sun, minding its own business in the galaxy. But suddenly something bang, hit the ground. Something like this. He showed the collision of a pen and candy. And as you all know, the world experienced 34 hours of continuous earthquakes. There has never been a catastrophe of such destructiveness in all human history. And the strangest thing is that there were no casualties. Something stopped the functions of modern society with a minimum amount of force. It's kind of like Amy attack. Amy, what's happened? They asked Master Sun. It's like shooting a tranquilizer straight into the ground. But this is physically impossible to do. Not a single terrorist and not a single country is capable of doing such a thing in an instant, throwing the whole world back into the Joseon period. Most likely this is the work of aliens. Kang Yeon overheard this and grinned at the aliens. He approached the girl, the dispatcher again. Sorry if you're not too busy, may I? The girl interrupted him. Busy? What? Is there a way to find my relatives? The girl began to say that the only people she knows about live here. A lot of people are sitting in government bunkers, so they are safe. There aren't many casualties in the city, so they're probably fine. The internet does not work at all. Until we restore it, there is little I can do. The main character asked if he could send them a letter or something. The girl just asked if he was joking, sending a messenger with a letter. Just wait a little. Then she shouted, about, it's done, as if already giving hope to the guy. But it was an old partisan radio, but it still somehow works. We've been told that there will be emergency channels on TV soon, but we haven't seen anything yet. She heard the area news saying, damn school children, we're trying to get things back to normal, and these idiots are ruining everything. Hearing this, Kang Yeon remembered his grandmother's words, the school children behave terribly. Mr. Kang Yeon, calm down and wait, and try not to leave the shelter in vain. The risk of encountering criminals in these parts is still very high. Did you already know that there was a high school not far away? There, the boys who occupied the territory turned it into their paradise. People are being robbed all over the area. Then Kang Yeon began to pack his things to take the old people here, because he didn't know what was wrong with his school. But he knew for sure that the old people would be better off here. Having gathered and dressed, he decided that he should accompany them. He passed next to the bicycle parking lot, took one and rode towards the house of the old man and the old woman. Arriving at them, he noticed a familiar group of faces. Those same hooligans. Crazy old man. Do you want to kill us? Are you crazy? They shouted all over the street. You damn idiots. The old man said, normal people eat and drink in order to live, and the bad ones live to drink and eat. Socrates. What? What is this madman talking about? They asked. Lobachevsky face. The old man said, the dog attacked the hooligans. Damn dog, they said. While Kang Yeon was standing above him, some kind of electronic thing was hovering. The hooligans' car drove away while the grandfather ran with the dog after them. Another view of the city. This fucking old man wanted to beat us with a crowbar. Yes, and he also had two huge dogs that almost bit us. We barely made it out of there. So you haven't achieved anything. Well, it was too dangerous. This gang of bandits began to talk. The little man began to scold their cook for preparing something wrong from the food. Out of fear, the cook began to make a reservation that he might have oversalted it, but it was all frozen meat too. Listen, we are no longer your students, so stop teaching us this crap. Do you know how much effort we put into finding this meat? You said that you cook well and for this we feed and protect you. And then you give me some crap instead of good meat. When the cook said that he had prepared it exactly the same as before, they forced him to eat it, stuffing the meat into his mouth. You idiot, said one little man from this whole company. The head of the company said that they should have tried harder to find food for everyone. One of the boys said that these old people have a lot of food there. Those who went to the old people said that he was not there, so it's easy to say this, because the old man almost killed them. To this answer, he threatened his companion with a pistol, saying that he himself should do this dirty work. Did you think such an excuse would really work? The whole world has gone to hell, now it's a battlefield, and you've become a mess here. After a few old farts fought you back. You should have just kicked their asses, you fucking idiots. The leader of the company. Calm down, they'll piss in their pants. Go back there and don't share the work and don't annoy me. Tazen, you are with them. At that time, Kang Yeon was watching and caring for his grandmother. Grandma, are you okay? Yes, everything is fine, but why did you return from refuge? Did something happen there? Grandma asked. I was there for several days and came back for you. It's too dangerous for you to stay here. Come with me. These brats only know how to make shit. Grandfather said, sitting aside. Kang Yeon began to persuade his grandfather to come with him. Grandfather responded by saying who he was, who gave him the right to come here. Darling, I already told you about him, that dear student whom I helped. Why are you still helping just anyone when the world is in such a state? Fuck off, guy, we're not going anywhere. I myself will defend my home and my wife. I will make this place safe. grandfather said. But grandpa, it's too dangerous here and it will be too difficult for you to change this place. It will be better if you stay with people in the shelter. Grandfather began his philosophical conversations again. As Plato once said, reality is created by the mind, and we can change our reality by changing our mind. Remember, young man, a person can only live by what he believes in. So why are you here? You don't even have to try to change my philosophy. Kang Yeong began to tell the stubborn grandfather that his philosophy was completely out of place here, to which he was told to shut up. The grandmother could not withstand this pressure from the men. Enough, I don't want to hear anything. I better go put the cart in the basement. Grandmother said, don't shout, I asked you not to go out alone. Please don't make me worry about you. I told you I'll do everything myself. Grandfather said to grandmother in a calm voice. Have a good rest, dear. Soya, Lobachevsky, let's go. He said to the dog, who made faces. What are you doing, Soya? Act a little more mature. He's a little weird, huh? The grandmother asked the young man. All because during the evacuation I was traumatized by people who wanted to live. From that moment on, he tries to do everything himself. He may be grouchy, but he's not a bad person. Kang Yeong heard and saw this group again through the window and told his grandmother to stay in the room. And he would go to his grandfather. Brats, why the hell did you come back? Looks like I'll have to break your heads this time. Grandfather exclaimed. He ran towards them to strike. In the name of his obstinacy and stupidity, grandfather received a blow from one of their company with a bat and fell to the ground. The dogs rushed into battle, because of which the boys who had arrived before beat them with bats. Just do what I say and everything will be fine. Listen here, grandpa, where is all the food you hid? I heard you've looked at quite a few stores, huh? If you give it to me, I will let you go, Taesin said. Then Kang Yeong rushes in, punching but missing Taesin. Taesin, recognizing his old friend, said that he heard that Kang Yeong became a vegetable. Kang Yeong, covering for his grandfather, told him to return to where he came from. Taesin only threatened that he would kick his ass like last time and that he was talking complete nonsense. Kang Yeong said that Taesin never fought honestly. There were two more idiots next to him. Fuck you, I will make sure you never come back here, the old man said. At this, Taesin hit the old man. Fucking old man, are you tired of living? If you come near me again, I'll kill you. Kang Yeong decided to start a fight, but missed and was hit by Taesin. Taesin, like a complete monster, struck Kang Yeong with both a bat and a kick, saying that the hospital did not do him any good, and then killed the dogs. Then the grandmother ran out, trying to push the robber away, which, accordingly, did no good. Oh, you robbers, what the hell are you doing? God will punish you. Taesin pushed the grandmother away while the grandfather held her close to him, asking if she was okay. The grandmother fell to the ground, seemingly unconscious. Good show you put on, Taesin said. What should I do now? I can't live without you. Please, darling, don't die, grandfather shouted. Kang Yeong stood up and ran towards Taesin, but before he even had time to reach him, he fell from Taesin's bat. What? I'm not afraid of you, damn idiot. Did you really think you could beat me? Taesin said as he practically beat Kang Yeong to death. Come on, come on, come on. Sorry, die, why did you even crawl here? The guys on the side looked at this spectacle with silence and fear. Kang Yeong has fallen. Having caught his breath, Taesin, with the back covered in blood, looked at Kang Yeong and made a face, telling the guy why they got up here and let them search the house. The same iron monster appeared on the roof of one of the houses.